Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles.
I certainly don't want you seeking help from them. Serafina's voice sliced through the private dining room like a blade. Not a whisper, but a declaration, ensuring everyone present heard that her husband was a worthless charity case. Victoria had just suggested I attend next month's tech summit. A simple suggestion that detonated the malice festering in my wife's heart. She laughed, that practiced social laugh, cold and precise, and the people around the table laughed with her. Marcus Chun, Devin Wright, and four other faces I didn't recognize, all laughing on cue like trained seals. I should have stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out, but I sat there, pinned to my chair, feeling the weight of every pitying or contemptuous gaze. Marcus Chun avoided my eyes. Devin Wright stared at his wine glass as if it contained the most fascinating thing in the world, and even the waiter paused mid-stride before quickly retreating. Understanding this was an execution not to be interrupted. They were embarrassed for me. No, they were embarrassed by me. I'm Magnus Brennan, 35 years old, a software architect who 3 years ago gave up his equity stake in a tech company to fully support this woman's entrepreneurial dreams. And what's my reward now? Being exhibited like a parasite, the punchline in her social circle. Before we continue, thank you for bearing witness to this story about dignity, betrayal, and reclaiming power. If you believe standing up against disrespect takes courage worth supporting, please consider subscribing. It helps these stories reach more people who need them. Now, let's see what happens next. My hand clenched the napkin, knuckles white. The Heights Club, Manhattan's members-only establishment where a single chair costs more than my monthly income. Serafina's world of polished walnut, dim lighting, and that pervasive air of we matter more than you. I sat at the far end of the long table, a carefully orchestrated position, close enough to count as participating, far enough to be ignored. Victoria's face had gone pale, her eyes darting between Serafina and me, regretting she'd spoken. Marcus stared at a painting on the wall. Devin studied the wine bottle label. No one dared look at me. My black shirt suddenly felt like prison garb. Serafina had insisted I wear it. Uniqlo, bought 2 years ago, and every time she mentioned it, there was an edge to her voice, a reminder. You wear discount clothes while they wear custom tailoring. Tonight I thought it was compromise. Now I understood it was a costume for my role as the husband unworthy of his wife. Victoria tried to salvage the moment. The summit's still months away, plenty of time to consider. Her voice too bright, too false, offering Serafina an exit. Serafina didn't take it. Magnus has his own projects, she said, the pause surgical in its precision. His remote work keeps him quite busy. Remote work. She made it sound like watching television or playing video games, as if I merely killed time at home while she built a business empire. I finally spoke. I do software architecture consulting, helping small and medium businesses build scalable technical infrastructure. My voice came out calmer than expected, though my hands were clenched into fists beneath the table. Devin looked up. Sounds practical. Practical, excellent word, translating to doesn't make money, doesn't matter, not worth discussing. Marcus changed the subject to some SaaS acquisition, and Serafina came alive instantly, transformed as if someone had flipped a switch. Her coldness toward me vanished, replaced by enthusiasm and charm. Gestures, laughter, industry jargon flowing freely. This was the version her colleagues knew. Confident, successful, captivating. This version never came home. For years ago, she was different, or maybe she was the same and I was simply blind. Back then, she was vulnerable, real, and needed me. Needed my support, my capital, my belief that she would eventually succeed. When we met, I was already stable, a Brooklyn apartment, steady clients, a life built over years. She moved in to focus on her startup, 2 suitcases, a temporary arrangement that became permanent as her possessions colonized every corner, transforming my apartment into her showroom. Dinner continued with Marcus and Devin discussing markets while Serafina dominated the conversation, dropping industry terms and names to display her network. Every few minutes she glanced at me with that look, triumph mixed with contempt, reminding me of my place, reminding everyone why I sat at the table's end instead of beside her. My phone vibrated. I didn't check it. Serafina deemed looking at phones during these dinners rude. At least for me. She could check hers anytime because her messages were always urgent. It vibrated again, then a third time. I glanced quickly, 3 messages, all from Connor Hayes. Connor, Serafina's chief operating officer. A college friend who'd excused himself to make a call 20 minutes ago. First message, sorry. Second, we need to talk. Tonight. Third, about Serafina. There are things you should know. My heart hammered against my ribs. Connor never did this. He was Serafina's staunchest ally, so if he was messaging me, work message. Serafina's voice cracked like a whip. Or does your client need emergency tech support? Laughter rippled around the table, contemptuous and complicit. I shoved the phone back into my pocket. Nothing important. Thought so, she said, turning away, already forgetting my existence. Don't worry, you don't need it at all. That sentence looped in my head. In the Uber, in the elevator, opening the apartment door. Serafina stayed at the club to continue networking. Had too much to drink, staying at Victoria's, her message read. Translation. She didn't want to face me, or simply didn't care whether she needed to explain. The apartment felt alien though I'd lived there 8 years. Serafina had erased every trace of my existence. My bookshelves arranged by color for aesthetics, but making finding anything a nightmare. My reading chair replaced by a sculpture beautiful but torturous to sit in. Walls covered with abstract paintings costing thousands yet looking like expensive accidents. Every change was an upgrade, Serafina claiming it reflected her industry status. That she needed a home matching her success. I told myself it was compromise, partnership, but somewhere along the way this stopped being our home. It became her showroom, and I became another piece of furniture evaluated and found wanting. My phone rang. Connor. Can you talk? The message asked. It's really urgent. I walked into the bedroom, closed the door, and called back. Connor answered quickly. Magnus, thank you. I know this is sudden, but she's having an affair. The words landed clean and precise. Not like a blow, but like confirmation of a truth I'd been avoiding. How long? 8 months. Connor's voice was tight. Someone at the company, Adrian, the CFO. You're certain? I have timelines, business travel records, expense reports. Serafina used the company credit card for their trips. Marked as business expenses, but they weren't. Miami weekends, boutique hotels in New Orleans. They didn't even bother hiding it. I closed my eyes. What else? Message logs from company Slack. Serafina thought they were private, but some leaked into public channels. And he paused. She lied to Adrian about you. Said your marriage was over. That you were only maintaining appearances for public image. That you were financially dependent on her and would be ruined if she left. Each sentence was a puzzle piece forming a picture I'd refused to see. And the expense reports, Connor continued. It's fraud, Magnus. She's marking personal expenses as business spending. If an audit finds this, if the board discovers it, it would destroy her career. Yes, I thought you should know, should have choices. We talked for several more minutes about timelines, patterns, specific transactions, Connor giving me tools to build a case. After hanging up, I sat in darkness for a long time. 8 months of infidelity, financial fraud, lies told to her lover about me. Stories spread through business circles about my dependence on her. Every piece of information was a weapon, and I now held them all. My phone lit up. Serafina, don't wait up. Staying at Victoria's. I stared at the message for a full minute, then called my sister. Jade Brennan was one of New York's most formidable family law attorneys. The kind who could tear someone apart in court then sip coffee with perfect grace. About time, she said, answering. I've been waiting for this call. We met at her Midtown office the next day. I relayed Connor's information while Jade took notes. Expression neutral until I mentioned the expense fraud. Something flashed in her eyes. Serafina funded an affair with company money, she said. Disguised personal travel as business expenses. That's direct fraud. Connor will testify. Jade leaned back. Good, but we need evidence, actual documents, not hearsay. Can you access Serafina's accounts? I thought of the cloud storage. 2 years ago, Serafina asked me to help organize her work files. said she was too busy and needed someone trustworthy to manage the backup system. Back then, she still needed me or pretended to, giving me access to the company shared drive. Then she forgot or was too arrogant to think I'd use it against her. I have access, I said. She authorized it for managing backups. Jade's eyebrow arched. She gave you written authorization? Yes, via email with timestamps. That's not hacking, Jade said, her smile sharp and precise. That's an authorized user accessing their permissions. My partner Simone specializes in digital forensics. She can help you extract evidence properly. I don't want to break the law. You won't. You're using documents you were authorized to access. We're just ensuring the record is clear and the chain of custody intact. Simone arrived at my apartment the next day with boxes of equipment and a legal procedure notebook. Authorization first, she said. I showed her the archived message from March 2023. Hey, help me organize my work files? This chaos. Giving you full access to manage backups. Simone photographed it, logged the timestamp. Perfect, explicit authorization. Now let's see what we have. She guided me through setting up screen recording. Then I logged into the cloud storage. It was chaos as Serafina described, work documents mixed with personal files, but patterns emerged. Start with expense reports, Simone instructed. I found the finance folder containing dozens of PDFs and began opening them. Miami, January 2024. Ritz-Carlton, 3 nights, $2,847. Noted as client meeting. But cross-referencing Serafina's calendar showed no scheduled meetings that weekend, marked personal time instead. New Orleans, March 2024. Windsor Court, 2 nights, $1,654. Noted as conference. But the actual conference was in Philadelphia. I knew because I'd received the forwarded confirmation. Keep going, Simone said. Document everything. 3 hours of examining every expense report, credit card statement, and travel receipt revealed an undeniable pattern. Weekend trips marked as business, romantic restaurant dinners marked as client entertainment, boutique hotels marked as conference expenses. Now check communications, Simone instructed. I found a work chats folder with exported Slack conversations Serafina had apparently backed up for records, then forgotten. Most were ordinary business exchanges, but conversations with a user marked A were different. Can't wait for next weekend. You were right about that place. Dinner was perfect. Thanks for arranging everything. Hate these work trips. Miss you. Nothing explicit, but the context was clear, the intimacy obvious, the deception unmistakable. Capture everything, Simone said. We need this ironclad. We worked until late evening. Every file properly tagged, timestamps recorded, organized into a clear narrative. When finished, I had a complete dossier, not just proof of infidelity but direct evidence of corporate fraud. This is solid, Simone said, packing up. You have her timeline of cheating, the lies, and financial fraud, powerful in divorce proceedings and potentially relevant in criminal investigations. I don't want to destroy her, just want out. Simone looked at me with something approaching sympathy. Sometimes getting out means letting the truth emerge, Magnus. She made choices, built the lies, you're just documenting what already exists. Jade called the next morning. Come to my office, we found something. Her conference table was covered with documents. Property deeds, mortgage records, bank statements. Tell me about the apartment, Jade said. When did you buy it? 2017, before meeting Serafina. A 1-bedroom in Brooklyn, paid in full with consulting fees I'd saved. Is Serafina's name on the deed? No, she never asked to be added. Said it was my place and she didn't want to complicate things. Jade's smile was surgical. She was right about not wanting complications, because once her name went on the deed, she'd need to contribute funds, need legal agreements, need to acknowledge it wasn't just her playhouse. She pushed over a document showing the apartment's current value, $785,000, purchased for $385,000. How much did Serafina spend on renovations after marriage? Kitchen remodel, $45,000. Bathroom renovation, $28,000. Those ridiculous abstract paintings at $15,000 each. Custom furniture, at least $50,000. About $150,000, I said. Does she have any documentation saying those renovations changed ownership? No, she just did it, said it made the place reflect her status. Jade leaned back. Here's reality, Magnus. This is your apartment, entirely yours. Serafina spent a fortune making it look how she wanted, but never changed the fundamental legal fact. She paused, letting it sink in. Legally, she's a guest who spent a lot of money. The words struck like lightning. I'd been living inside Serafina's narrative where she convinced me I depended on her, that I lived by her grace while she publicly humiliated me, implying I was a parasite. But this was my apartment, always had been. I owned it, and all her expensive upgrades hadn't changed that fact. You can make her leave, Jade said simply. Legally, immediately. It's your property, you decide who lives there. What if she refuses? Then it's trespassing. New York law is clear. Property owners can issue eviction notices to unauthorized occupants. Given her current situation, affair, uncertain professional prospects, she won't want a court battle. She handed me a document. Formal eviction notice in perfect legal language, giving Serafina 30 days to vacate. You don't have to serve it immediately, Jade said. But when you're ready, it's here. I stared at the notice. This wasn't just about the apartment. It was about reclaiming the narrative she'd stolen from me, reclaiming the truth she'd twisted. It was about proving I never needed her. She needed me. I chose the coffee shop, not the Heights Club on her turf, but Café Renoir in Greenwich Village where we'd had our first date. Back then she was different, or maybe the same, and I was simply blind. I arrived early, chose a corner table by the window, neutral territory where she couldn't stage a scene, just a cafe with ordinary customers and ordinary witnesses. Serafina arrived 15 minutes late, perfectly dressed in her Burberry trench and designer bag, radiating that "I'm too busy and important" aura. She sat without removing her coat. The message clear. She wasn't staying long. You said we needed to talk, she said without greeting. About what? I pulled a folder from my backpack and placed it on the table. I want to discuss you and Adrian. Her face drained of color instantly, just a moment before she regained control, but I saw it. The flash of fear, the panic of being caught. I don't know what you're talking about. I opened the folder to the first page. An expense report from Miami, sliding it toward her. January 2024, Ritz-Carlton, 3 nights, marked as client meeting, but your calendar shows personal time as does Adrienne's. Second page, New Orleans. March 2024, Windsor Court, marked as conference, but the actual conference was in Philadelphia. Neither of you went. You were in New Orleans together. More pages. Savannah, Charleston, Santa Fe, 8 months of weekends funded by company money, all marked as business. Serafina's hands clenched beneath the table. How did you get these? You gave me access, March 2023, asked me to manage your work files, organize backups. You gave me full permissions, then forgot. Those files are private. I have every right, I interrupted. You authorized it in writing with timestamps. Completely legal. More pages. Slack conversations, intimate messages, plans for future trips, discussions about handling her situation. You told Adrian our marriage was over, I said. That we were only maintaining appearances, that I was financially dependent on you. All lies. Serafina's face shifted from pale to flushed. You don't understand. It's complicated. No, it's simple. My voice was terrifyingly calm. You had an affair, funded it with company money, lied to your lover, your colleagues, and me. That's not complicated, it's fraud. You can't prove. I laid down the final document, the eviction notice. 30 days, I said. I want you out of the apartment because it's mine, my name on the deed. You live there because I allowed it. Now I don't. She stared at the notice as if reading alien text. You can't do this. I can. I've confirmed with my attorney. It's my property. You never changed that fact regardless of how much you spent on renovations. Those renovations are worth. You never got my permission, I said. You just did it. Now it's all mine, everything in that house, because it's my house. Serafina's hands trembled as she tried to hide it, tried to regain control, but the collapse had begun. What will people say? They'll say you cheated. I leaned back. That you funded an affair with company money. Lied to everyone. Spouse, lover, employer. They'll say the truth. You'll destroy me. No. The word like a bullet. You destroyed yourself. I'm just stopping helping you cover it up. Serafina stood, her coat sliding to the floor. You'll regret this, You'll what? I asked, voice still calm. Sue me for accessing files you authorized? Admit to corporate fraud to retaliate? Please, go ahead. She grabbed her coat, fingers clumsy. I thought you loved me. The person I loved never existed. Each word a nail. She was fiction you performed to draw me in. The real you standing before me? I don't know her and don't want to. Serafina turned to leave, then looked back, desperation and fury mixed in her eyes. Don't worry, you don't need it at all, she said, throwing my words back. That's what you said, right? Yes, I said. I did. And it proved true. I don't need you, never did. You needed me, my support, my belief, my willful blindness so you could build your empire of lies. But that's over. She walked out, back straight, maintaining appearances to the end. Through the window, I watched her stop on the sidewalk, pull out her phone, fingers flying across the screen, calling Adrian, calling lawyers, trying to control a narrative already unraveling. I sat another 20 minutes, finished my cold coffee, let the adrenaline fade. Then I texted Jade, done. Her reply was instant. Well done. Now watch her set herself on fire. 5 days later, Serafina self-destructed. The Tech Leaders Summit at the Manhattan Hilton with 200 industry professionals. Serafina was on the operational strategy panel, her moment to shine before peers. Connor sent a brief message. You need to see this, with a link to a Twitter hashtag. The whole thing went viral. Someone had live-streamed it. Serafina was on stage discussing operational efficiency when Adrian stood up from the back row where Connor said she'd come specifically to watch Serafina's presentation. You're married, Adrian said, voice cutting through the auditorium. You told me you were single, that your marriage was over. The room froze. Serafina went white. Adrian, can we discuss this privately? You lied. Adrian walked toward the stage. About everything. Your marital status. Those trips. Those expense reports. All lies. I don't know. I just got a call from your husband's attorney. Adrian interrupted. You know, that husband you said didn't exist? They informed me I might need to testify in an investigation regarding company fund misuse. Murmurs erupted. The panel moderator tried to regain control, suggesting they take this offline, but Adrian ignored him. You used the company credit card for our trips, she continued. Marked them as business expenses. That's fraud. Serafina, you promised we'd be together. Said you were just waiting for the right time to leave your marriage, but you never planned to. Did you? You were just using me. Serafina tried to speak, but nothing came out. She stood in the spotlight, her carefully constructed professional image collapsing in real time. The moderator called a break. Someone escorted Serafina off stage. Adrian was guided from the auditorium. The damage was done. By afternoon, the story spread across tech Twitter. By evening, it hit tech news sites. Tech executive accused of fraud and deception at Summit. The company investigation launched quickly. Connor called the next day. The board formed a committee investigating expense irregularities. They're requesting all relevant documents. Did you provide them? Already did. I had no choice, it's a legal request. And Magnus? Your evidence, the timestamps, expense reports, everything, organized exactly how they needed it. They suspended Serafina this afternoon. Suspended. With pay for now, but depending on findings, could become termination. This is serious, tens of thousands in fraudulent expenses. The board won't take this lightly. That evening, Serafina messaged, "We need to talk." I didn't respond. She messaged again, "Please, I can explain." Still no response. Finally, "I messed up, I know, but can't we at least resolve this like adults?" I turned off my phone. I spent 2 weekends cleaning out the apartment, erasing every trace Serafina left. The expensive abstract paintings went online, the sculpture chairs too, along with custom furniture and designer decorations, everything she used to transform my home into a showroom. The proceeds went to the community center where I used to volunteer. Then I reclaimed my belongings. The old reading chair retrieved from my sister's storage, concert posters rescued from a friend's basement, books reorganized by author the proper way. Maya helped repaint, changing from Serafina's insistent, refined gray to warm cream tones, making the space feel like home instead of a gallery. "This is more you," Maya said as we admired our work. "Feels like someone lives here." Serafina moved out, calling it moving out was generous. On the last day of the 30-day notice, movers came for her belongings. Clothes, shoes, personal items brought during the marriage. She didn't come herself, sent an assistant to supervise. Final abandonment, unable to face the destruction she'd caused. Before leaving, the assistant handed me a letter in Serafina's handwriting on her personal stationery. I waited until evening to read it. "Magnus, I don't expect forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I need you to understand I never meant to hurt you. I got lost trying to become who I thought I needed to be, let external success define worth, and lost what mattered most in the process. You, us, myself. The company terminated me. The board voted unanimously for immediate dismissal. I know I deserved it, know my choices led here, but I wanted you to know you were right about everything. I built a life on lies that inevitably collapsed. I hope someday when enough time passes, you'll remember there was something real once, even though I ultimately destroyed it. Take care of yourself. You deserve better." I read it, then fed it through the shredder. Not from anger, but because her apologies, explanations, attempts to reframe the narrative. None of it mattered. She made choices, to cheat, to lie, to humiliate me, to build a false empire. The consequences weren't punishment I imposed, but natural results of cause and effect. I met Julian Carter at a community design conference, a Brooklyn co-working space hosting a conference on using design to serve underserved communities. I was moderating a panel on developing economical tech solutions for nonprofits while Julian discussed community architecture and accessible design. We talked during the post-conference coffee break, conversation flowing naturally, not networking, just two people with shared interests. "I loved what you said about technology serving users rather than impressing investors," Julian said. "Too many people forget that." We talked for 3 hours about design philosophy, books we'd read, music shaping creative thinking. Julian made me laugh for the first time in years, not performative laughter but genuine enjoyment. As the venue began closing, Julian asked if I'd be interested in continuing over coffee sometime. I hesitated. The rational part recognized this as a simple invitation without obligation, but the wounded part worried about opening myself again. "I'd like that," I heard myself say. "But I should mention I recently ended a marriage and I'm not looking for anything complicated." Julian's expression stayed warm. "Coffee isn't complicated. Just two people talking." We met the following Thursday at a Park Slope Cafe, neutral territory. I arrived early, claimed a window table, reminded myself I could leave any time. Julian arrived on time carrying a well-worn leather bag, and we talked for 2 hours. He described a project renovating a community center in Queens, while I shared a branding campaign I'd developed for a women's shelter. Conversation never felt forced. He didn't ask invasive questions or treat me like someone requiring careful handling, just like someone with valuable perspectives. Over the following weeks, we met regularly. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became long walks through Brooklyn with Julian pointing out architectural details I'd never noticed. I found myself relaxing, laughing more freely, sharing views without fear of dismissal, remembering who I was before Serafina convinced me I wasn't enough. One evening, walking through Prospect Park, Julian asked about my design philosophy. "I believe design should serve people rather than impress them," I said. "The best branding helps organizations communicate their actual mission, not construct fictional versions." Julian stopped, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. That's exactly what drew me to your panel discussion. You talked about authenticity in a room full of people discussing market positioning. It was refreshing. 2 months into separation, Connor sent a screenshot. You have to see this. Serafina's latest LinkedIn post, performative reflection about embracing new chapters and learning from challenges. Carefully crafted corporate language reframing professional collapse as intentional personal growth. I showed it to Julian over coffee. He read carefully, then looked up, barely concealing amusement. Translation, he said. I destroyed my marriage and career through arrogance and dishonesty, now trying to spin consequences as intentional evolution. I laughed genuinely without bitterness. Watching Serafina's carefully constructed fiction, I realized a fundamental shift had occurred within me. I didn't hate her or wish her continued suffering. I simply didn't care. She'd become irrelevant to my life. A cautionary tale about building everything on false foundations. When people asked if I'd consider reconciliation, people have strange curiosity about failed marriages. I'd smile and repeat what I said that evening. Don't worry, you don't need it at all. Because I'd found something better than what I lost. Not better in the superficial ways Serafina valued, like exclusive clubs, impressive titles, expensive furniture, but better in ways that truly mattered. Peace in my own space, self-respect not dependent on others' approval, authentic connections with people like Maya, Connor, and Julian who valued the real me. I learned being underestimated isn't weakness but foundation for the most meaningful victories, the quiet kind not requiring public validation, the kind that comes from looking in the mirror and respecting the person looking back. One Sunday morning, standing in my apartment, coffee in hand, surrounded by concert posters, comfortable furniture, and books organized meaningfully, I realized I had everything that truly mattered. Not wealth measured by portfolios or social status measured by exclusive memberships, but wealth measured by authentic relationships, self-knowledge, and freedom to build a life reflecting true values. Serafina could keep her LinkedIn posts, carefully managed image, and whatever new fiction she constructed about her life. I had something infinitely more valuable. I had the truth, and I'd reclaimed myself.
That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.